Hello, everyone, and today we're going to be doing a discussion episode on the best to worst operators for the new stolen goods slash grand larceny mode that came out only a couple of days ago as of me recording this. I have no idea when I'm going to upload it, hopefully soon, because it's only going to be available for a short amount of time. But that being said, this new mode is very interesting. If you haven't played it, go check it out. But one of the biggest takeaways of this mode that you need to know before you watch this video, before you can understand why I ranked these operators in the way that I did, is that every operator has shotguns. All of the shotgun's destructibilities are very much amplified, including their range. Their range for which the shotguns can be useful is much large. Like the range is much higher than usual. And an important thing to keep in mind is that there are no drones in this mode. You cannot drone out anybody. Drones are completely disabled. However, there are cameras that exist. Cameras which can be used by the defenders, and you can gain information on where they are. Now, something that you should know is that not all of the operators are available in this game. There are only 17 attackers and 23 defenders. And I basically am not really paying attention to their weapons at all. Now, obviously, I am keeping in mind the destructive capabilities of the weapons, but the weapons don't really play too much of a part into how I'm going to rank these characters. Now, with all that being said, let's get right into it. Number 17, rounding up the very bottom, is Sledge. Yeah, Sledge is basically useless because all of the shotguns have very amped up destructive capability. What's the point of bringing Sledge when a shotgun from a very large range can do the work, right? Like with Sledge, you have to get up close to the wall and open up a somewhat decently sized hole. Well, I mean, you can basically do a bigger hole from a larger range from even further away. Really, the only saving grace for Sledge is that you can instantly open barricades 100% of the time, and you can do it much more quietly. But let's be real, this is a very fast-paced mode. Using, stealth is not really going to go very far in this mode. But, Sledge is, yeah, basically Sledge is kind of useless. Number 16, Thermite. Yeah, nobody really reinforces in this mode because there is no prep phase. So as soon as the round starts, both attackers and defenders are moving at the same time. You don't really have time to reinforce anything. And even if something is reinforced, you only have one reinforcement. So if a wall's reinforced, there's like a 70% chance that there's a wall right next to it that's unreinforced that you can go right through. So having reinforced a wall will basically do you nothing in terms of extra protection. Plus, all of the floors can be opened up from underneath, and there's going to be a lot of visibility from a lot of different angles. Reinforcing one wall is basically not going to do anything. That being said, even if you reinforce a wall, with Thermite, he makes a big, open, exposed hole, which is not the most useful thing in the world. Because once again, if you want a big, opened, exposed wall, then you can just shoot open a hole right now, shoot open the wall right next to where the reinforced wall is. So yeah, Thermite, pretty much useless. Number 15, Maverick. Now, unlike Thermite, Maverick can make very small sized holes, which actually can be very useful for getting angles on people. Now, the reason why Maverick is so low is not because this ability to make open holes, it's not because the ability to make small holes in reinforced walls isn't useful. It's just that nobody's reinforcing, like I said. Now, in those times that there are people reinforcing, being able to make a small hole that you can shoot through and be mostly covered, it's very useful, especially with shotguns. So he is by far much more useful than Maverick. Like compared from Maverick to Thermite, although he's only number like one above him, he is like twice as useful because he can make very small holes where you're mostly covered, where you can get angles. But of course, this is a very high-paced mode. The ability for you to use that is rather limited. Plus, you have to be right next to the hole when you make it, so being able to make open the hole and not die while you're making that hole is very unlikely. But if you can pull it off, you can do some good stuff with it. Number 14, Hibana. Yeah, just like Maverick and Thermite, nobody really reinforces, so there's not really any incentive to go Hibana. That being said, the ability to break open reinforced walls from a distance is very useful actually. If there does happen to be a reinforced wall, unlike with Maverick and Thermite, you don't have to get up close to that wall. You can shoot those pellets from a distance, which is actually extremely useful because this is a very close quarters map, right? So being inside and having your Hibana pellets, and being able to shoot them from a distance is very useful. Whereas if you're Thermite, you have to get up close to the wall, which in a lot of different situations is very risky. It could put you in a bad situation. You could get killed while you're setting up the Thermite charge. Yeah, not really ideal, but with Hibana, you can do it from a distance. And just like with Maverick, you can make some small holes that you can get small angles through, which is, like I said, pretty useful. Being able to have a small angle that you can shoot people from mostly protection, pretty good. And unlike with Maverick, you can do it from a distance, which you're a lot less likely to die while you're making the hole, unlike with Maverick. Number 13, Ash. Now, kind of like Sledge, Ash is not very useful, but the reason why I put her above Sledge and above the anti-breaching or the hard breaching operators is because Ash can make holes from a distance, which is useful, but at the same time, it's not the most useful thing in the world because, like I said, the range of the shotguns is pretty far. You really don't need to go as Ash in order to break open walls. You can basically do it with a shotgun, but of course, Ash does have that extra distance that you can shoot open in unreinforced walls from a distance, which can be useful. But of course, if you really want a wall broken, you can very likely do it with a shotgun. But Ash's M120 Crem, or the whatever it is, the breaching rounds, they do have extended range, which can give you an advantage in some certain circumstances. Number 12, Thatcher. Now, Thatcher is not the most useful operator in the game because nobody's really deploying gadgets. It's not like you'll ever need Thatcher to get through an unreinforced wall. If there does happen to be a reinforced wall where there's bandit batteries on it, you know that you're going to probably be in a good position to win, okay? That's not really a strategy that's going to work in this game mode. So, I wouldn't worry about it, right? But of course, it can disable cameras, it can disable goo mines, which is pretty useful, but nobody's really using their utility in this mode as far as I've played it. Now, maybe that'll evolve over the next couple of days, but using Thatcher, you're not really doing much as far as throwing your EMP grenades because there's a lot of opportunity to counter that if you are an attacker, and plus as Thatcher, there's not really much that you're going to be able to disable in the first place if they even have anything, right? So yeah, Thatcher, not really that useful, but in a lot of circumstances where there's like goo mines all over the place, those can be really helpful, but for the most part, not really that useful. Number 11, Amaru. Yeah, Amaru is surprisingly not terrible. The one advantage that she has is being able to get into the building very quickly. Now, like I said, this is a very fast-paced mode, and if you're Amaru and you're able to take advantage of that fast-paced nature of the round of the game, and you're able to get into the building, especially on like the top floors, in a matter of seconds, you're very likely to catch some people off guard. You can be AFK as a defender for like 4 seconds, and you could die from a Maru who repels in, which is very useful. Now, the reason why she isn't higher up is because one of her primary reasons why you would use her, which would be to get up through hatches, well, that's not a thing. There aren't any hatches in this mode because what's the point? But because of that, Amaru's usefulness is limited because you can't, repel through floors. So I would argue she's more useful in the base game because you can get up through hatches, and you can use that as a flanking route. But in this mode, yeah, you're pretty much just stuck on the floor and you have to take the stairs as a normal character. But she does have her usefulness. Number 10, Nook. The ability to get around the building relatively quickly and pretty quietly is very useful, actually. Now, this is a very fast paced mode, and it's not very information based. However, what limited information that you can deny can be useful. There are, in fact, cameras on this map. There's no drones, but there are, default cameras. There's echo drones, and there's Valkyrie cameras, and if you're able to sneak around the map and you're able to deny that information, that can be useful. Now, I would say that she's arguably more useful in the full game, where people are more likely to actually go on the cameras. In this mode, people aren't really going on cameras if they're even, using any intel operators. But if you are able to deny that information, if you're able to get in quietly, that can be useful. But of course, this is a very fast-paced mode, so I mean, sure, you can get in there quietly and get one kill, but then you're exposed. Everybody knows where you are. It can be a rough situation. Number 9, Capitao. Capitao is actually pretty decent in this mode. It is important to keep in mind that Capitao's bolts actually do have quite a good range. It's in fact, I think the range is unlimited, or not unlimited. I think it has like the maximum range, as well as it is the size of a bullet hole and has no drop. So you could get some long distance kills with this crossbow. Like, you can shoot somebody from across the map and kill them with their crossbow relatively quickly, and it's the only quote unquote long ranged weapon in this game. Now, of course, that comes with downsides, which is why he's relatively low at the bottom. One of those major downsides being that it's not like an insta kill; it is a fire effect. But of course, that fire effect can be really good at denying an entranceway. Although that being said, it only lasts for a short amount of time, and with this being such a fast-paced game mode, the usefulness is relatively limited. However, Capitao does have another ace up his sleeves. He does have smokes. He has two built in into his gadget smoke canisters. The fact that he has those as along with his fire does actually make him pretty useful. Because you can smoke out the safes and then go in and open them, which can be very useful. So Capitao, not a terrible pick. Number 8, Gridlock. Gridlock is another very interesting character. Along with Capitao, she also has the Spaz 15, but once again, not really relevant. What is relevant, though, is that her tracks are really good at denying ways that you can get in. Now, using those tracks to slow down any defenders that are coming up the stairs is pretty useful. Now, the reason why she's not higher on the list is because A, it's relatively easy to destroy the tracks, although it does give away the defender's location, which is very useful. Information in this mode is actually very useful because, like I said, the attackers don't have access to drones. So being able to know if they're coming up the stairs because they're shooting the tracks is useful. However, if you happen to be on a floor above where you're cracking a safe and the defenders see tracks, the problem is they could just shoot the safe and make it fall down through a floor, which now you can't open that safe anymore, which makes it kind of redundant because you can drop the safes through a number of different floors. Blocking off access to a floor as an attacker, although can be useful, isn't as useful as it is in the base game because they can just drop the safe down through a different floor. So, although Gridlock is very useful as far as restricting movement and giving you information, that usefulness is limited by the fact that holding access to a particular area is not the most useful thing in the world when the entire floor can break open in 1 second. So, that's why she's at number 8. Number 7, Fuse. Now, Fuse is a very risky give or take character. He can open up a lot of different holes. Because here's the thing with Fuse, if you're able to have protection while you're deploying those cluster charges, you can open a lot of holes and a lot of different floors. He is extremely powerful if you can pull it off. However, it is very, very risky to pull it off. As a defender, you can hear him placing the cluster charge, and you can just spam open the floor above you, and you're actually really relatively likely to kill him. But if you're able to catch some people off guard, you can cause some absolute mayhem with Fuse's cluster charges, which is why he's so high. But of course, he's not higher because he's relatively easy to counter. Number 6, Zofia. Now, as far as Zofia's KS-79 lifeline goes, its usefulness is mostly dependent on the concussion rounds. The explosive impact grenades, just like with Ash, aren't very useful. If you want to make open a hole, you can just use your shotgun. It even has a drop off, unlike I think it does, or maybe it doesn't. Regardless of whether or not it has a drop off, you can basically create a hole that an entire team can walk through side by side with your shotgun in a matter of seconds. So if you really want to make open a hole, just use your shotgun. You don't need to use the KS-79. In fact, if they hear the KS-79 impact round go off, then they know, well, Zofia has her KS-79 now. We can rush, push, and kill her. Now, of course, if you're able to counter that, that can be useful, but I haven't really seen that at all. Okay, this is meta thinking in. This is, for the most part, this information isn't really useful. However, what is useful is her concussion grenades. Once again, there's no drones in this mode, so being able to launch a concussion grenade through a hallway or into a room and either know that it's clear or know that there's an enemy in there is extremely useful. Now, the reason why she isn't higher up is because she only has 2 of those concussion grenades. So you're only be able to know if somebody's in a room twice, and if one of those times there isn't somebody in the room, then you basically wasted a concussion grenade. However, those times that there is a defender in the room and you concuss them, that'll give you a huge advantage. Of course, if they're camping, then you're basically going to die regardless. But you can know, being able to know that a room is clear or isn't clear in a couple of seconds can be very, very useful. Number 5, Ying. Now, this is specifically talking about the Xbox or the console version. I don't know if on the PC version she still has 4 candelas. I'm pretty sure she only has 3. But as of right now, as of me recording this, on the Xbox version, she still has 4 candelas. And boy, do those 4 candelas make a huge difference. Being able to drop a candela into a room and run in and not have to worry about if there's somebody in there or not is very, very useful. I mean, if there is somebody in there, you can go in free, get a free kill. If there isn't somebody in there, well, don't worry. You can go in and crack open the safe if need be. Now, one of the major reasons why she isn't higher up is because what's very common to happen is that you're throwing a candela and it falls and then it drops down to a different floor because so much of the floor is open. It's very common that you'll throw in a candela and it basically just falls through the floor and doesn't do anything. Or if it does do something, you won't be there to take advantage of it. But in those fleeting moments where you can get a really good, really easy candela kill, it'll make a difference. But the likelihood of you actually pulling it off is relatively slim, but that insurance in knowing that it's safe for you to be able to go in can be very useful. Number 4, Yana. She's the only one that has a drone. I mean, what else do I need to say, right? It's very easy to open up barricades that you can walk in, or walls in a hole that her Gemini replicator can walk in, and you can send in your replicator and see, is there somebody in there? Is there somebody not in there? You can find that information out in a couple of seconds. And because she's the only one that has basically a drone in the entire game, or at least on the attacking team, you can have a lot of very useful information very quickly. Now, how useful that information is going to be, it can be very useful, it can't be, but for the most part, just being able to go into a room and know is it clear is a huge advantage, which is why she's so high up on this list. Number 3, Jackal. I mean, being able to scan 3 people and confirm their locations and basically get them killed, I mean, what else can you say, right? Like, if they're a floor above you, you can shoot them, make them fall down, and kill them. Being able to spot people's locations between floors, mind you, is very, very useful. Like, there isn't really much else to say about it. Jackal, he can scan footprints and give the location away of a defender to the entire team for possibly, up to 5 times in just a matter of seconds. That is some very powerful stuff. In a game where there's no drones, being able to have a live ping of a character's location is extremely useful. Number two, Finka. Now, you would actually probably be surprised why I put Finka up so high. But the thing is that the amount of health that you get, the 20 health that you get, has been life or death for me in so many different situations. You can go in, if there are elements, you can ignore them, right? Being able to revive your teammates regardless of where they are is very useful, especially in this mode because, it's such a fast-paced mode. Being able to get to somebody and revive them quickly is not really going to happen too often. But man, having that extra 20 health really makes a huge difference in this mode, let me tell you. Number one, if you've been, looking at the list, obviously by process of elimination, you can tell who it is. It's Dokebi. Come on. Being able to give away the entirety of the defender's locations, for a couple of seconds, that usefulness, especially once again in a mode where there's no drones, you give away an entire team's location. If as long as the attacking team is there to take advantage of it, that is extremely, extremely powerful. And the fact that she can hack into the defender's camera network and she can get access to those camera things, to the cameras, the Valkyrie cameras, or the Echo drones, or the default cams, and she can spot and give information to her team. I mean, it's just the most useful thing that you can do in a game where there are no drones, right? Being able to have so much information available to your team at once is so extremely useful. Now, you might disagree with me on the placement for Finka. Maybe you think that she needs to be lower, and perhaps that's my bias because I've had Finka save my life so many times, or I've used Finka to save my teammates' life so many times. You might be biased and say, actually, Finka's way worse. But of course, this is just my list, and if you think that she should be lower, I think that's fair. I do think that the placement for all of the other operators is a little bit, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good representation of how well they fare in this mode. All right, now moving on to the defenders. There are 23 defenders, and a lot of them are really not that good. It's funny because the defenders, they have an advantage in that they can decide where the objectives are, they can decide where the safes are very quickly. And they can basically stop the attackers from getting anywhere close to the safes. However, there are 5 safes. Um, I think there's 5 safes, and the defenders or the attackers only need to get a hand on 3. So if you're in a 1vx situation where you're a defender and there's multiple safes, you're in a really tough spot. But if you're able to coordinate with your team as a defending team, you should be able to win with no problem. That being said, let's get on to the 23 operators from worst to best. And we're going to start off, rounding off the worst, with number 23, Bandit. Yeah, like I said, nobody's really reinforcing. And even if you are reinforcing, it's very likely that the attackers are not even going to have a Thermite or a Maverick or a Habana. And I don't even know why I say Maverick, because Maverick can get through the reinforcements, regardless of your bandit. So, yeah, nobody's really reinforcing. You have one reinforcement, and you're not really going to be able to take advantage of that one reinforcement. Even if you have a full team coordinate to block off 4 different walls, remember there are 4 different floors, and say they can't get access to one of the floors, then well they can just get in through a different floor. Just pretty much redundant. I would say one somewhat useful thing is the fact that you can electrify, barbed wire, but yeah, no, Bandit, pretty much the worst. But the only reason why he's worse than Kaid is because he has to be right next to the Bandit charges. So yeah, you got to put yourself, and it takes multiple seconds to place down the bandit charges. So if you want to set up your 2 reinforcements and your 2 bandit charges, it's going to take longer. Well, actually, sorry. If you want to set up your 1 reinforcement and then your multiple bandit charges, it's going to take longer than if you have Kaid. So that's why Kaid is better. Number 22, Mira. Yeah, Mira is like I said, nobody is really reinforcing in this mode because you're not going to be able to put Mira on an unreinforced wall. It's not going to work. It is so easy to destroy the mirror window if you put it on a reinforced wall. You're not going to be able to place your mirror window and be able to take advantage of it. All it'll really do is give away your position. And if, say, you want to use it as a trap, it's like, oh, I put the mirror window and you go somewhere else, you're not really taking advantage of the mirror window then, are you? You're just like, it just gets destroyed in like a second. Like, it's using mirror on a, unreinforced wall is basically useless. Now, say you want to put it on a reinforced wall, well, that can be useful, but once again, you're gonna, if you want to take advantage of that mirror window, you're gonna have to be behind it. And remember, they can shoot from above and below you. So camping in a room where they know where you are, yeah, not the most useful thing to do in a mode where there's so much destructible capabilities. But that being said, it is better than Bandit for the obviously explained reasons. And you can definitely do work with Mira, but for the most part, she's not going to be the most useful. Number 21, Kaid. Yeah, you can use Kaid to electrify some walls from a distance. The reason why he's so low is for the aforementioned reason of nobody's really reinforcing, so being able to take advantage of your electro claws is very unlikely. The only reason why he's higher than Bandit is because he can get multiple walls, like he can get up to 3 walls with, 1 electro claw, and he can do it from a distance where he's safe. So yeah, for the most part. And the biggest thing, like I said, the weapons don't really matter, right? I would say that Bandit has a slight edge in the regular game because he has such a strong weapon, the HK MP7. Uh, but I mean, in this mode where everyone has shotguns, yeah, forget it. Kaid's electric claws are basically not going to really do you anything. But he can deploy it faster, easier, and he can do more walls, which is why he's above Bandit. Number 20, Echo. All right, continuing, forget the whole part about Echo. We're going to redo it because I forgot about this operator. Number 20, Vigil. It should be no surprise why Vigil is so low. There are no drones. But of course, there are ways that the attackers can get information, which being able to deny that information can be useful. For example, if they hack the camera feed with Dokebe, it can be useful to be Vigil. If they have a Yana, that can be useful. But because the specific circumstances that you would need to be in are so situational, right? Like in regular Rainbow Six, everybody's using drones all the time because that's how you play the game. But in this mode, it's so difficult to get access to a camera network that Vigil can counter that Vigil is very, very useless to a large extent. But if you're in those certain circumstances where they do have a Yana or they do hack the camera feed, being Vigil can be very useful, which is why he's higher up than Kaid, Mira, and Bandit. Number 19, Rook. Yeah, Rook is very useless to a large extent. Because what does he do, right? He makes it so that first off, he gives you extra health, like a reduced damage, which sure can be useful, but with shotguns, they're so powerful that you're very unlikely to actually benefit from the Rook armor to a large extent. What else does he do? He makes it so that instead of going down, instead of dying, you go down. Now, at face value, that would seem relatively useful. All right, instead of going down, because the thing is, and once again, this only applies for non-headshots, right? So if you take a shotgun shell from 1 inch away, instead of dying like you would without Rook armor, you only go down, which at face value can be useful. But think about what I'm saying. You're getting shot from 1 inch away with a shotgun. And wow, you only go down. You're basically dead. Like, let's be real. If you go down in this mode, you're like 80%, there's an 80% chance that you're about to die immediately after. So, yeah, being able to go down instead of die doesn't really mean too much when there's shotguns only, so you're basically about to die anyways. Now, I would say the reason why he's higher up than all of the other characters is because with grenades, it's actually a pretty high chance that you would go down and survive if you get downed by a grenade. But other than that, you're pretty much dead. Number 18, Oryx. Yeah, Oryx is not useful whatsoever. Although, unlike Rook, it's not as situational that you'll be benefited from using Oryx. What can he do? He can slam through walls in a mode where basically all of everybody's weapons can instantly destroy a wall in like a split second. There's no hatches that he can climb through, so he's basically not really going to be going through any hatches. Now, why is he higher up than everyone else? Well, remember, with the Remadash, it's not just about going through walls, and it's not just about climbing through hatches. The Remadash goes at a fast speed, and in a very fast-paced mode like this one, being able to be that fast and being able to, go through different floors in like a split second is actually very useful. You can, Remadash past the doorway and then sneak up and kill them. And once again, this is a very fast-paced mode. And being Oryx and being able to dash past people or, even slam into people can be useful. But of course, the number of situations where you'll be able to take advantage of your increased speed is relatively limited. You're not very likely to get any usefulness out of Oryx, but the fact that he's so fast in a game mode so fast paced is actually pretty useful. Number 17, Goyo. Yeah, Goyo, not really the most exciting character in this game. He can place down his explosive Vulcan shields. And at face value, that can be very useful. You can block off access to, an area. But at the same time, the likelihood of you being able to take advantage of his shields, because, like, okay, picture this situation, right? You place down a Goyo shield because you're trying to set up a defense for a location. So they just break open the floor underneath you because they make the assumption that you're in there and cause the safe to fall down. Now, the reason why he's not super low is because if you are a Goyo and you're at the bottom of the map and you set up your Goyo shields in such a way that only you can shoot them, you have a huge advantage. Now, of course, you can get shot from above, and the attackers can shoot them from above easily because there's no like beams or anything protecting it. But you can put yourself in a position where it's very difficult for the attackers to get in unless if they have an Ashe or a Zofia. Now, I didn't mention that as far as Ashe and Zofia because I haven't really seen that take place yet. I've never seen an Ashe or Zofia break a Goyo shield from a distance yet, but of course that can happen, which is another reason why Goyo is so low. But you can put yourself in a position where you're able to defend a location with your two Goyo shields, and you can make some quick work of it. However, like I said, for the most part, setting up a defensive location is only as useful as its usefulness is very limited to say the least. Number 16, Warden. Warden is actually surprisingly effective because Ying is so powerful and because flashbangs are so common. Yeah, being able to go Warden is actually pretty useful. If they try and throw smoke down to get the hatch open, you can see right through their facade and you can instantly kill them. Not that the smokes help out a ton because you can just spray through the smokes and kill them easily. But being able to have one precise shot and being able to kill them through the smoke, if they use that, pretty useful. If they throw candelas in, which, like I said, are very powerful, you can be resistant to them. Also very useful. Flashbangs are pretty commonly thrown. Although frag grenades are also very common as well, which you won't really do much against. But if you're able to stop, if you're able to be resistant to flashbangs, that can be very, very useful. However, of course, there are other operators that can, make quick work of those utilities in a much better way, which is why he's so low. Number 15, Maestro. Yeah, Maestro, I mean, you can. Here's the thing. In a mode where there are no drones, being able to have, semi indestructible Maestro cameras in a specific position that you can use to watch over a location can actually be very useful. However, the likelihood of you being able to take advantage of those Maestro cameras when the defenders or when the attackers can do a very good job of shaping the map and determining where the objectives go, yeah, having going on your cameras, not very useful in this mode, which is so fast paced. You shouldn't really ever be on your Maestro cameras, but the fact that they are indestructible can be useful. I mean, they're not indestructible; they're bulletproof, which can be useful. Although frag grenades are so common, and if they have a Zofia or an Ash, or even a Sledge, if they for whatever reason wanted to bring a Sledge, they can make quick work of those Maestro cameras very easily. Thatcher also can take care of it. Maestro cameras aren't really going to do too much for you because, there's not really much that you're going to be able to do with it. And plus, you shouldn't really be on your Maestro cameras. But you can just set them down and have your team look at them. So, relatively useful. Number 14, Echo. Now, Echo Echo kind of has the same issue with Maestro in it that you shouldn't ever really be on your cameras in a mode that's this fast paced. Um, but the reason why I put Echo above Maestro is because those things are invisible, so people are very, very unlikely to ever even find them, right? Let alone destroy them. But with Maestro cameras, they can see them and destroy them. Because they're invisible or they're cloaked, you can place down an Echo drone, and it's very unlikely that it'll ever get found, really, because there's no IQ. So they can't really find it by using IQ. Really, the only way they could find it is if they used Dokebi and they hacked into the camera feed. But other than that, you can place down those Echo drones and get a lot of information very quickly. However, the likelihood that you're going to have your Echo drones in a really good spot that you're going to be able to take advantage of that information, not extremely likely. And plus, like I said, you shouldn't really ever be using the Sonic Blast on those things because you shouldn't really ever be on your cameras when the map is so destructible and the attackers can so quickly and easily get to your location. So you shouldn't ever be using Echo drones as far as, actually using them as Echo. But having your teammates look onto the Echo drones, which are very likely to not get destroyed while you're just, alive or sitting around, that can be very useful. So, yeah, that's why Echo is pretty high up on the list, but not the most useful. Number 13, Castle. Yeah, so Castle is actually surprisingly effective for one reason and one reason only, and it's to get surprise rushes on people. Using Castle to defend a location, not the most useful thing in the world because, it's this map is so destructible. You can if you block off, a castle barricade, you can just very likely open a wall right next to where the castle barricade is. Using Castle to defend a location isn't going to be the most useful thing in the world, but where he does come in handy is that idea that the attackers have in their mind that this location is clear. If you are a castle and you're behind a castle barricade, if you have that information that there's somebody on the other side of the castle barricade, you're very likely to quickly destroy it with an impact grenade and take advantage of that enemy who probably isn't prepared. This is actually very surprisingly effective in this mode, unlike in the other mode in regular Rainbow Six, because there's so many different ways to get rid of castle barricades. But in this mode, you're very likely to not see. If you see a castle barricade, you're very likely to just blot that out of your mind. You're just like, well, there's a castle barricade. You don't think to destroy it because who cares? If you really need to get in there, you can just open a wall right next to it, right? But in those moments where you're able to quickly destroy a castle barricade and take out some enemies who weren't paying attention, man, does that it happen? It's happened to me multiple times already, and it is very satisfying. And if you can pull it off, you'll be in a good position. Now, of course, this might change as more and more people do it and more people become aware of this strategy, then Castle will go lower and lower down on the list. But as of right now, when people aren't expecting it, man, it's actually pretty good. Which also helps with Oryx as well. He can do that. Number 12, Mute. Now, for the very most part, Mute is basically useless. You're not going to be blocking off reinforced walls. You're not going to be a very useful anti-breacher, right? You're not going to place it. You can't place it to stop drones because there's no drones. But the one situation where Mute is useful, and it is actually very useful, is if Dokebi calls. Because Dokebi gives information to the entire attacking team on your position, being able to have that mute jammer placed on the ground that anybody can walk into and instantly disable the call is extremely useful in a mode where the attackers are starved for information. What little information they can get from Dokebi, Mute can deny in a split second. Hell, he can stop the call from ever happening if you just so happen to be on a mute jammer whenever the call goes off. For the most part, the information that you're going to be able to deny with mute or the access that you'll be able to deny for mute is very limited. Not much. But those Dokebi calls can be life or death. And with Dokebi being the most useful operator in the game, being able to have mute and to stop that information from happening can be an extremely large advantage. Number 11, Wamai. Wamai is actually surprisingly useful in this mode because with there being no drones, a lot of people are throwing in grenades. Like they're like, I don't know, is it clear? Let's throw in a flashbang. Let's throw in a frag grenade. But frag grenades are one of the most useful long range counterparts, right? Because everyone has shotguns. You can yeet a grenade across the map and kill somebody with very little issue. Capitals bolts, also very useful for getting long range kills. Well, Wamai denies that. You can place it at the top of doorways, and you can place it in very helpful situations. You can place it at the top of at the top of a wall, and because nobody's really expecting a Wamai yet, if they throw in a smoke grenade, it'll grab that smoke grenade, make that smoke grenade redundant. Same with flashbangs, same with frag grenades, same with Capitals bolts, same with gridlocks tracks. If you're able to use Wamai effectively, you can deny a lot of usefulness to the attacker's loadout very quickly. Now, why is Wamai like relatively low on the list? Well, it's because this is such a fast-paced game, and there's no preparation phase. But remember, Wamai has a cooldown on his gadgets. So it's actually not extremely likely. Well, let's just say the likelihood of you being able to have all 5 of your magnets and you being able to deploy them in such a way that they're effective is actually not very likely because it's such a fast-paced round. There's no preparation phase. You place one and then you might die before you even get your second one. So yeah, although the magnets can be very useful for denying the attackers vital, you know, either information or blockades or whatever the case may be, that cooldown timer really kills Wamai in this mode. Number 10, Alibi. Alibi is here's the thing. You're not going to fool anyone by being an alibi decoy in this mode. Okay, let's get that right out of the gate. That ain't going to happen. But what does Alibi have actually? Well, she has the ability to give away attackers' locations who are trying to rush in. Say you have an attacking team who is planning on going in through a specific location. You can place down your alibi decoys at the bottom of window seals, and they can't get rid of them without giving away their location, unless if they want to go through a different route. But you can also use that to your advantage to have cutoff points. You can also use them, and you can use your alibis to make very tiny holes that the attackers, because they have shotguns, are very likely to shoot and immediately give away their location. And you can use that information to your advantage. You can kill them from the floor below. You can kill them from the floor underneath. Now, the fact that you can't pretend to be a decoy is definitely, a disadvantage. But the fact that you can, very likely get some useful information very quickly is actually pretty useful, which is why she's at number 10. But who's at number 9? Well, the answer to that is Valkyrie. Unlike with Echo, unfortunately, obviously, her things are not destructible. But the thing with Valkyrie is that you can place them anywhere. You can place them outside the map. You can place them in very small hidden, nooks. And although they're not invisible like Echo's drones, you can place them in such a spot that the attackers literally can't shoot them with a shotgun because the range of the shotgun is, so limited, right? Now, of course, the shotgun's range is definitely, good compared to what it is in normal Siege. But you can throw them in some really sneaky spots and you can do some really good runouts. Like if you place it on a telephone pole and camp at one of the exits, you can go in for a very quick and easy run out. And being able to have that information, especially because you can use that information anywhere, unlike with Echo, who has to be inside the building and he has to be, either at the bottom where he's not invisible or at the top connected to the ceiling where he is invisible. um, you can make a lot of quick work. Now, you could argue that Echo is more useful because it's invisible, but the thing is with Echo is that you have to spend that time to go onto your camera or to go onto your phone and put it in a position exactly where you want it. And that takes time. With Valkyrie, you can throw it in a split second and it's right where you want it. With Echo, you have to obviously place it and then you would have to go onto your camera and move it to exactly where you want. And without a preparation phase, that's a lot of valuable time that you could be spending, doing something else. Or, worst case scenario, you're in the middle of positioning it and then somebody comes and kills you. Echo, it definitely has a lot of usefulness as compared to Valkyrie, but the fact that she gets three, the fact that you can instantly place them in a game mode that's so fast paced, and the fact that you can place them anywhere is extremely useful. Number 9, Jaeger. Shouldn't be surprised that he's more useful than Wamai. Number one biggest usefulness is that it destroys the projectile rather than moving it, because sure, you can move it to a more safe location, but at the same time, if you can destroy it, then that's not a threat at all. Another big thing with Jaeger as opposed to Wamai is that you get all three of your Jaeger ADSs immediately. You don't have to wait for them to come up, and in such a fast-paced mode with no preparation phase, being able to place all three of your ADSs, which block a total of 6 projectiles, in 3 seconds is very useful. You're very likely to die with Wamai before you even get to place all of your magnets. With Jaeger, you can place all of your ADSs in just a couple of seconds. And maybe not a couple of seconds, but in less than 10 seconds, you can place all of your ADSs and you can block off access to an entire room. Well, not access to the room, but you can block the ability for attackers to throw in projectiles into the room, and you can make them completely nullified as opposed to just moving them. But of course, now that Jaeger is a lonely 2-speed rather than being a 3-speed, uh, the usefulness is rather limited as far as being able to go in for aggressive pushes. Number 7, Capkin. Capkin is the sleeper hit in this mode. He can place down his Capkin traps. One of the biggest downsides with the Capkin traps is that it takes a while to set up. In fact, there's a lot of situations where you're going to die before you even set up all of your Capkin traps because this is such a fast-paced mode, which is why he's lower than some of the other trap operators who can instantly deploy them. But truth be told, being able to do 50 damage with traps in such a fast-paced mode where people are very likely to not even worry about it, right? They can't, the attackers can't drone in. They have limited ability to know if there's a Capkin trap on the wall other than walking up to it and seeing if there's a Capkin trap. So many people just waltz right into the building, waltz right through doorways without looking at Capkin traps at all, and being able to take down that 50 damage, half of their health is gone, or you could kill them. And the fact that they're not looking around for them, and the fact that they're so hard to see, well, they're not impossible to see, but because people aren't looking for them, it's very likely you're going to be able to get multiple kills with Capkin if you're playing this mode. Number 6, Ela. No surprise, being able to throw concussive mines literally anywhere, no matter how high, no matter how low, no matter how sneaky, and being able to have them literally impossible to shoot is very powerful. It gives you information on their location, as well as disorienting them and making an opportunity for an easy kill. Not that we normally talk about weapons, but she also has the FO12, which is very, very good at destructive power. You can basically clean open an entire wall or an entire floor in a matter of seconds, much easier than most other shotguns. Plus, it's magazine fed as opposed to, individually loaded or tube fed. So you can make quick work of a wall, reload, and then you're ready to go. Only really one other weapon can do that, and that's the Saiga. As far as weapons that are in this mode, obviously the ACS-12 can, but that's not in this mode for some reason. Kind of dumb because it should really be in this mode. Maybe it's too powerful. I don't know. But yeah, that FO12 is strong. That FO12 is strong, but like I said, we're not worried about the weapons. The concussion mines are very powerful. You can throw them in a pinch as like a grenade of sorts. You can pre-place them in a various amount of different spots that are literally impossible to take care of. Very useful gadget. No surprise, she's so high up on that list. Number 5, smoke. You would be surprised because you'd think like smoke. It's actually you have to like pre-place them or you have to like throw them in a pinch. But man, being able to run away, quickly throw your smoke and stop them from chasing you up a stairway, for example, or at least if they do try and chase you down, they'll be taking a lot of damage. That is actually extremely useful. You could just instantly stop them from if you're in the like just like with the regular mode, if you're in a clutch situation, you're like, oh no, I can't like watch this. I can't watch this safe and this safe and this safe. Well, you can just throw a smoke grenade at one of the safes, throw a smoke grenade at another one of the safes, and you can either throw a smoke grenade at the last safe. And when I say smoke grenades, I mean gas canisters, and then you can either throw your last gas canister or you could just watch the last save and you can basically easily win rounds. Smoke, surprisingly useful, surprisingly deadly in this mode that's so fast paced, they're very likely to just instantly rush into your smoke and take a bunch of damage. And reducing the damage by not even paying attention is obviously very useful. I don't think I need to explain that concept to you. Number 4, Frost. Yeah, Frost is god tier in this mode. It's so like obviously, unlike with Capcan traps, they're a lot easier to see because they're just on the floor and they're on the floor. Unlike with Capcan traps, they can be they can be at multiple different levels as far as like how low or high they are. Frost traps are always on the floor, but they're instantly downing, which obviously I don't need to explain to you. Instantly downing a player is extremely useful, but in a mode that is so fast paced, you can set up some frost traps in front of a doorway and they're very likely to just rush right in through the doorway and instantly down themselves. That gives you information on where they are and possibly gives you multiple different kills very quickly. Unlike with Capcan traps, you don't have to place them at doorways. You can place them anywhere. You can place them in the most stupid spots. You can place them at the top of stairways where they're very unlikely to look. They're not. Most attackers aren't going to be like looking down at the floor. They're just focused on the objective. Although, I mean, they're likely to look at the floor because they're shooting it. But if you place the frost traps in places where the floor underneath isn't destructible, they're not really likely to look at them. If they're going up the stairs, because it's such a fast-paced mode, they're very likely to just run up the stairs and instantly fall into your frost traps. There's so much you can do with frost traps. It's incredibly useful to be able to just place them and instantly down them, or just to know that this location is blocked off, or if it isn't 100% blocked off, to know that they're going to have to deal with that frost trap. And that'll give you knowledge and information on their location with their very loud shotguns. Because none of the shotguns other than the Saiga can have a suppressor. So they're going to shoot it, give away their location. If they try and shoot the frost trap, a lot of very useful information. Number 3, Pulse. I mean, who could expect, right? A character that literally has wall hacks in a mode where the floor is entirely destructible. You don't have to worry about metal beams. You can just see that somebody's underneath you, instantly shoot and obliterate them in a matter of seconds. Anywhere. They can be above you, they can be below you. You don't have to worry about frost. You don't have to worry about beams. you can instantly, put yourself in a position where you have that knowledge quickly. And you can get information on multiple different people at the same time, wherever you are. Very useful. I don't think that I really need to explain how Pulse is so powerful in this mode. It is so incredibly useful. Yeah, Pulse number 3 by far. Number 2, Lesion. I mean, okay. You might be surprised because by process of elimination, you might know who number 1 is, and we'll get to that in a moment. But Lesion, being able to place invisible goo mines anywhere you want, it gives you information, it does damage, it stops them. It's such a fast-paced mode. Attackers are very likely to step onto their goo mine. There's no IQ. They can't find out where the goo mine is. They just have to run into it if they can even see it, and they most likely won't. And it'll do, and even if it doesn't do its 100% damage, you have that audible cue of where they are, you can go in and take advantage. You have multiple of them, and if you're able to stay alive, you can put yourself in a position where you're able to, you know, get all 8 of your goo mines, because unlike or just like with Homai, one of the major downsides is it's such a fast-paced mode, and you have to build them up over time. So you might not be likely to get all of your goo mines, but even placing 1 or 2 down can mean the difference before a round, because that audible cue of them stepping on that goo mines, knowing that they're either going to take damage or that you're going to be able to take advantage of that kill, extremely useful. No IQ, so they're very likely not even going to see them or destroy them. The only way they could really destroy them is if they have a Thatcher, which they most likely won't. Lesion, pretty powerful. All right, number 1, you already guessed it by process of elimination. It's Doc. He's the only operator that can heal, and in a game mode where there is no insta-kill headshots from halfway across the map, you're very likely to get tapped from a distance, and Doc is able to save your life. Doc is able to revive himself if he gets hit by a long distance shot, or if he gets hit by a grenade from across the map. Instantly revive himself, and number 1 thing is Doc can uh get you out of a clutch situation very quickly. If you're now at very low health, you're able to get that health, and health is so valuable in this mode because the shotguns, although they aren't insta kill for the most part unless if you're really close, they can do a lot of damage very quickly. And being able to have that extra 40 or potentially 80 health is definitely going to mean life or death for most people, and it is very useful to know for a fact that you have that extra health on your back. So yeah, that's my list. If you disagree with it, I understand. Perhaps maybe you think Doc should be lower because, if he dies, then that's it. He doesn't provide any utility for the team. Maybe you think Echo should be higher because his things are less visible. Maybe you think Goyo has more potential, whatever the case may be, but that is my list of all of the attackers and defenders ranked from worst to best uh, for this new Grand Larceny mode. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took multiple different attempts, and this is a long recording, but I think I provided it. And for the short amount of time that this list, or for the short amount of time that this mode is going to last, I hope that the information I provided was useful to you and that you're able to take advantage of it whenever you play the new Stolen Goods / Grand Larceny game mode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more of this, make sure that you check out my other videos. I do a lot of other Rainbow Six discussion videos. Uh, and I'll see you guys whenever I decide to make another video. Peace.